Hi everybody, I'm Jim from M&M Tools and Machinery. Today, we already talked about the Craig miter gauge, but we just wanted to point out we've got so a lot of times when people buy a table saw, there's a few things that they want to buy with them that are handy accessories that make using your saw more enjoyable, more accurate, and just a better experience overall. And granted, there's all kinds of different opinions, but I'll tell you a few that we've seen here. One thing that you want to do, the blade that's on most table saws is a general purpose blade. It's usually a 40-tooth blade. A 40-tooth is really good. Like I said, a general purpose, which means that you make compromises on everything else. So if you're going to do on blades, if you're cross cutting, you want more teeth. If you're rip cutting, you want fewer teeth. The wood fibers naturally, I wish I had a piece of wood here and I'd show you, but the wood fibers, when you're ripping, they naturally want to split, right? So if you get too many teeth in there, you're just going to burn it. It's unnecessary. Cross cutting, you want more teeth because you want to take smaller bites so that you're not ripping apart the wood fibers, you're cutting them. 40-tooth blades nowadays, there's tons of technology in them, and so a lot of them you can get really nice cuts. But what I always recommend to everybody when I sell them a saw, even though most of us are lazy, me included, and we just want to use one saw blade, the truth is, if you're going to rip and you're going to do other stuff, it's good to have a general purpose blade, but when you're ripping, you really want to use a rip blade. It'll just be better for the saw, better for you, easier all the way around. Now, does that mean if you're going to rip 3 boards, you should change out your blade? Not necessarily. But if you're going to rip 3 2-inch boards, yes, you should change out your blade. This is a really good blade. This is an M&M blade. And it's a 20-tooth. So when you're looking at that, if you see, it's real aggressive. An aggressive hook angle, and then it's got a big gullet, so you can evacuate the chips quickly. Good quality blades will be, well, you'll be able to feel the difference in a good quality blade first off, but a couple of things you look for. These heat vents, you know, in a good quality blade, you won't just have little ones here and there. You'll have multiple heat vents, and then hopefully you can see it on the camera. See that little ring right there? The design of that, the plan is to basically trick the saw into thinking that it's using a 6 or 7-inch blade. So it helps you get a truer cut, a truer, straighter cut. The smaller the blade, the easier it is to get a truer cut. The bigger the blade, the more blade deflection you get. Blade deflection is when, you know, the blade tweaks while in use. When you have that little rolled on piece, somehow it works to where that doesn't happen as much. So this is a good quality, nice, high-end rip blade, and you want to stick to those. When you buy cheap rip blades, more often than not, you get crappy results. The other thing I wanted to point out is that even though a rip blade, it seems counterintuitive at first, but even though this is 20 teeth, when you're ripping, you'll still get a good clean cut. A 30-tooth, they call a 30-tooth blade a glue line rip blade, and some of them are good enough for that. Other brands are not quite as good at it, but a 20-tooth will still give you a really clean, nice cut on a rip cut. On a cross cut, it'll be very bad, but on a rip cut, a 20-tooth will still be a good clean cut, so don't be afraid of that. Also, if you're trying to do a non-through cut and end up with a flat bottom, i.e. if you're going to do a dado but just with a single blade, this kind of a blade is good for that. Unless again you're cross cutting, then you get lots of tear out. But the benefit is this is flat. It gives you a flat bottoms cut. Okay, so really nice blade. The other thing, like I said, we were just doing a video on the Craig precision miter gauge. If you don't already have a precision miter gauge, once you get one of these, it's, I mean, I don't want to be dramatic and say it's revolutionary, but at the same time, it really is in a lot of ways. Because you can make your own jigs, you can do all that for sure, and you can make really nice stuff. But to get a good crosscut sled or to have a good precision miter gauge makes your work a lot easier and faster. So rather than having to go and you're going to cut your cabinet side and it's doing one of these, is you're trying to push it through the blade and it's binding up and it comes out all ski-wampus and it's not only not square, but it's not the right size. That's really annoying and it makes the experience not as enjoyable. Whereas with the precision miter gauge or crosscut sledding, again, you can make your own, then you know, you're able to make repetitive cuts quickly, accurately, and rather than this experience being a pain in the tush, it's just fun and easy, and you want to keep doing it. When you bring the miter gauge over to your saw, Remember we talked about this little piece. You're going to slide that in the T in the bottom, okay? And then we talked about those little pieces that go in the edges that true it up. So you can probably just barely see that. See the play? So what you would do is you would pull this out, and with your screwdriver, you would just, you know, pull this side out a little bit. We got to get the smaller screwdriver. Anyway, so you pull that out and do that on all of them until you get a good snug fit, but not so snug that you can't move it back and forth. So if it's too much, then of course back the screw back in a little bit. But you just work your way down to where you have a good snug fit and there's no play. You don't want any play. When you move to a different saw or a different router table, then their slot will be slightly different, which means that it's not going to be necessarily true to every machine. That's why if you have a really precision, and that's true of any of the precision miter gauges like this, if you have a precision miter gauge, you really want to get one per tool. I know that's expensive, but otherwise you got to spend time truing it up every time. Okay, so then what you'll do is you'll bring your square in and you'll square it up with you'll bring this over close to the blade but not touching. Tighten that up. Tighten it up, not loosen it up. Sorry guys. Then bring your stop over. Okay, and then you want to put this at 90 degrees. So if this is out, you've got two adjustments right here that you can move, of course. And that's for your real finite adjustments, by the way. I guess I should have pointed that out. So these are your main degrees. This is kind of like in-between degree type of things. And it'll explain that better in the manual, of course. And this will give you some adjustment here. You can also get some adjustment in the bar, but mainly what you'll do is if you're not at 90 degrees, these little thumb screws that we pointed out earlier, right here, that's what you'll move to get to your 90 degrees, right? So they're going to push the bar out one way or the other until you get to the 90 that you want, if that makes sense. There we go. So make sure this is all trued up in here. So the slop we're getting right now is actually from the miter bar itself. But anyway, that's the process that you'll use. So when you're setting these, if you're only out a little bit, then you can snug these down, not lock them down all the way, but snug them down. If you're out a lot, then you're going to need to loosen that up to try and push the bar in or out. Okay, and that's basically how that works. And then when you need to do angles, you just spin this to where you need it to go. And then of course you have detents on your common numbers. The one thing you do want to pay attention to is, let's say I'm out at 45 on this side. This is one of the reasons why I love the Craig, by the way, is this little bar is precisely fit to the miter gauge, so there's no play in that. So then you're going to lock it down, but if you'll notice, we're a long ways away from our saw blade. Option A is you just put on a sacrificial fence. Option B is that you move this closer, but you want to make sure that you're not cutting through it, right? So we're close enough there. And then the other key is when you come back to zero, and I've had this happen with multiple customers now, especially on a SawStop, because SawStops will trip if you cut aluminum. You need to remember to back off your miter gauge, otherwise you're going to cut through it with your blade. Okay, so then you would just loosen it back up, bring it over here to the stop, which we talked about earlier, and away you go. And then your stop, of course, kind of self-explanatory. You're going to move that to wherever you need to make your multiple cuts at, lock it down, and away you go. So you true up the bar, true this up to make sure it's at 90, and again, all those adjustments are in the manual. And then you'll set up your your measuring scale to where it's accurate, and then set your stop so you can always come back to 90 and be accurate there. Okay guys, I was just talking to a customer, and there was something I forgot to mention. So two things. One, this bar is approximately 3/4 by 3/8, and that's pretty much the standard miter slot. Now if you have a portable table saw, that is not always the case, so you want to measure your slot. And then if you have an older saw, the Craftsman's notorious for doing a funky size, so older saw or a portable table saw, measure first before you buy one of these. If it doesn't fit, you can always sand the bar down. It's just kind of a hassle, but you can definitely do that. But this is a 3/8 by 3/4 bar. It will fit any miter saw that has that bar. If you, or not miter saw, table saw or router table that has that size. If your router table or table saw does not have the T, all you do is take the T off, like we talked about before. The other nice thing that you get with this, which I don't know why I forgot it, that was kind of dumb, is you get repeatability, which we talked about. But it's ease of use on that repeatability too, you know, because you can flip it out of the way, flip it back when you need it. And then along with that, and probably more important, is, you know, if you're going to cut small pieces, this keeps your hands out of the way, you know, so I can keep my hand up here rather than down here by the saw blade. If you have a SawStop, there's a little bit less worry there, although it's expensive, so you don't want to do it anyway. But just having your hands up here keeps them out of the way, the line of danger. Okay, so it's a lot safer to have a miter gauge also. When the other place I used to work at, we always recommended to guys to build their own, and definitely building your own has a lot of advantages. But I've kind of come to the opinion nowadays that I think it's really handy to at least buy something to get going with, and then maybe build your own, just so that you can kind of get started. A lot of people are better than me at pacing themselves and being more patient, but I know for me, you know, I kind of get bogged down in the details because I'm real OCD, I guess, which means that while I'm building stuff, it takes forever. So then I don't ever get anything done. So that's why I kind of tell customers to buy one of these and just get it done, get it purchased, and you have precision already built in. And then if you want to make another crosscut sled, yeah, do it. That would be great. But at least you have some precision here. The SawStop does come with a pretty nice miter gauge. This is better than most. It really is. And in fact, it's nice because it has little ball detents here. So if you didn't have the dollars, then that's understandable. But when you see these and you can afford it, number one, and number two, when you see them on sale, then it's, I mean, definitely you want to get one of these. It makes it a lot easier. Also, with the SawStop, the other accessories you want to buy too are another one of these, okay, for Dado Blades. And if you do a lot of cutting and you think you might mess up one, then buy an extra, of course, just in general, but buy one for Dado Blades. They're 40 bucks, 39 bucks. And then you want to buy another cartridge for Dado work. This is your standard blade cartridge. Your Dado one's wider, but you want to buy a Dado cartridge. So SawStop, you want to buy a rip blade, a good rip blade. And I do mean that. Buy a good quality rip blade. Don't skip on a rip blade. But anyway, buy a good rip blade. Buy an extra brake cartridge for Dados, and possibly an extra just regular cartridge just to have it. Then you want to buy a throat insert for Dados, and then a precision miter gauge. That's what I would recommend. This is Jim from M&M Tools and Machinery. Thanks for watching. Let us know if you have any questions.